One that I can think of right off the top of my head, we had a woman that came in to stay in our shelter who had some issues with personal hygiene, and she just didn't take a bath. And it started to become an issue. Residents were talking about her behind her back. Staff members were talking about her, the whole thing, and so they finally brought it to my attention. And they said, what can we do about this? And my standard response was, well, have you talked to her about it? And at that point, no one had talked to her about it. And so an advocate did step up and said, yes, I'll have that conversation with her. Come to find out, the whole reason was in her prior life before coming to the crisis center, every time she tried to take a shower, she was sexually assaulted. And so she had a lot of post-traumatic stress with that and everything else. And so it required a little brainstorming on our part, what can we do to help her with this? But we created a plan in such a way as she could shower and feel safe. And the issue stopped. But it had gone on apparently a couple of weeks before anyone finally brought it to my attention. And so, that's the frustrating thing is, when you find out something is going on, you should open your mouth and talk about it, because not just snowballs the whole thing. Another example I can think of is someone that we've had a long-term history with over the years, seen her several times, and at this particular moment, she was currently a non-resident, still receiving services from the crisis center, and she'd actually come by the office. She was low on food, and she was asking for some food assistance. She was also someone I know that had some issues with prescription medications, and as they were prescribed to her, there were times, not every time, but there were times where she didn't take them quite the way that she should. And so on this particular day when she came up to the office to get food, she was clearly over-medicated, kind of stumbling around, picking up things, and really being unsafe, truth be told. And there were 2 or 3 advocates to the office who were just like, what do we do? What do we do? We don't know what to do with her. Well, again, there was another advocate that had a long-term rapport with her, and she was like, have you guys just talked to her about this? And again, the answer was no. And so she went in the kitchen and she said, are you okay today? Because it seems as if you've overtaken your medication. And so she full-on directly dealt with the issue and then took care of it. Like, so many things would go away if we would just open our mouths and take care of them. But the thing is, our jobs are to de-escalate those crisis scenarios, not escalate them. And so because that advocate had built enough of a rapport with that particular non-resident, she could flat out say, seems like you've overtaken your medication.
Yeah.
But I think what the hesitation was is some of the newer people there had not really built that rapport. And so their concern was, if I go and address this with her, she's going to become confrontational. Well, again, we ought not be afraid of confrontation. We should be able to know how to process and handle that. And so, another example I can think of, literally, that just took place last week at my office, a woman that I've known for a long time came in really upset, swinging her arms around and talking in the high voice, that whole thing, very angry. And so she came in my office and began to tell me this tale that she was experiencing in a pretty animated way. And at one moment where there was a natural break in the conversation, I said, you know what, that makes me super angry. And she was a little bit taken aback by that. You're mad? Of course I am. Because what's happening right now is not okay. And I want you to know that I know what you're experiencing is not okay. And then there was kind of a, I know. And it started, initially it may have looked as if I wasn't de-escalating anything. But her tone didn't change. She still told the rest of the story. And when she got done up here telling the rest of the story, down here, I said, yeah, it's really not okay. So what can we do about it? And this is not your problem. Well, it is my problem now, because I'm concerned about what happens with you. And I know something's not being done the way it needs to be done, so we, collectively, what can we do about this? And so that right there completely changed her tone. So she went from being up here still to, we. Okay, so you're willing to help me now. Of course I am. So, and you know me to be a person that you can trust, because I've built rapport with you. And you know me to be a person who, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Because that's incredibly important in the advocacy role. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Or don't say it, but you know that I will. And so the very next day, the issue, the other resource that was the agency that was the issue, we brought that person in and the 3 of us spoke together. Now, I wish I could tell you that at that moment, problem solved, everybody went away singing la la la. Problem wasn't solved. However, We did open up the communication. She felt like she was being advocated for, and to the credit of the other agency, they created a new plan of working with the person. So it was a positive response, even though we didn't fix it right then. But because I created a space where she could come in way up here, and I even validated, yeah, I'm angry too, let's fix it, the crisis was de-escalated.
Yeah.
If I would have taken it personally because she was speaking in some absolutes, none of you people care about me. Well, that's not true. I could have taken that personally and said, oh, how dare you? You know, but why? Because she doesn't even mean it. She's just frustrated right now. Let's talk about that. And so I think we have challenges sometimes not taking it personal, because people that are upset, people that are in crisis do speak in those generic absolutes. Everybody here stinks. Nobody cares. No one listens. Everybody's angry. You know, whatever it is, it's never everybody.
Yeah.
And so if you allow yourself to be put into that everybody category and then get on the defensive, you're never going to make any progress.